Hey, so how's it going? I killed me a deer this morning, and I'm gonna gut this deer on my video. And if you don't want to see a dead deer, if you don't want to see a deer being gutted, this is the time to turn it off and scroll on. Okay? Love you guys. Woo! This is where I found him. Shot him about an hour and a half ago, and he's a good legal buck in Florida. 10-inch main beams. That's what he's got to have. I've been on about 15 hunts, so my standard drops more and more. Good legal buck is what I got, and I'm real happy with this deer. Probably the only deer I killed the whole season, so he's going to ride in the back of the truck with me. I'm going to gut my deer. People ask me a lot of questions, especially non-hunters. They ask me questions about, am I scared when I go out in the woods alone? What do I do with the deer meat? How do I prepare it? What's the process? First process is to kill one. And I shot this deer, like I said, about an hour and a half ago. And I've spent the whole morning looking for him. I shot him through the bottom part of the neck, and it's the furthest shot that I've ever made. And there was a moment when I didn't think I was going to find him. And these are the hunts that are most rewarding, when you stick with it and you get to the place to where you're not going to give up. You're going to spend the whole day looking for your deer, because there was blood where he was standing, but that was the limit. And he ran off in a direction that I didn't think he went. And I had that sick feeling in the pit of my stomach that any hunter knows when you lose an animal. But I'm not a great hunter. I'm mediocre at best. But I found my deer, and that makes it real rewarding. So I'm hunting in Florida. This is a pretty small deer. It'll weigh in probably live weight 120, 125 pounds. It's probably 2 years old, maybe 2.5 years. Who knows? But like I said, he's a good legal buck. Nobody cares about how old he is or how big his rack is when they're eating tenderloins. So there you go. One of the questions I get when it comes to preparing is, how do I prepare it? Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to process the deer. So I'm going to gut this deer right here, right now, where he lay, and then I got to get him and my gear back to the truck. So the best way to do that is to lighten the load. And there's not, people ask me about, am I afraid to be out in the woods, and the answer is yes. Sometimes I get really nervous and anxious about where I am and what I'm doing, and if anyone knows where I am, and will anybody be able to find me? And you ask some people that I hunt with, and they'll tell you if something goes bad, it'll be a real challenge to find us. But the first time I gutted a deer, someone on the video will say, Pete, you gut that deer all wrong. And that might be true, because nobody ever showed me how to do it. I had to learn myself. And the first deer I gut, I was 18. I might have been 19 years old. And I was all alone in the back country of the Aster Swamp in Florida. I killed my first deer, and I was lost. And I gutted that first deer alone, not knowing how to do it. But not a session goes by where I gut a deer that I don't think about that day. When I was 18 years old, alone, wondering how I was going to get it done. And that's partly part of the growing process in life, I became a hunter that day. And I gut my deer, and I did it alone. Nobody showing me the way. So that's kind of why I like hunting in the back country, why I like hunting alone. And the further I get from the truck, the better. Okay, so I'm going to gut my deer. You have to leave sex evidence on an animal regardless of the antlers. So I start at the anus, ream the anus with my knife, cut in, and up, and out, so you limit the amount of hair that you get on the meat. And then remove the innards. I'm going to save the liver, I'm going to save the heart, and the rest I'm going to leave for all the critters that live here. So nothing about this deer will go to waste. Alright, here we go. Start here at the backside. The thing I've noticed about this deer is there are absolutely no parasites on this deer. I've killed deer in here and they have been loaded down with ticks. That is not the case here today. Holy smokes, there are no ticks on this deer. Alright, so we're going to cut around the rectum. What that does is it loosens up the digestive tract. Just going to cut around the rectum. This is a time when things can get really shaky. If you cut yourself, you stab yourself with a knife, and you're out here in the woods, that could be the end for you. So always take your time and go slow and get it done right. Alright, so we're going to cut right here. Get it started. And just real lightly. I don't need to put any pressure on my knife. Just a little bit. Get it started. Get that there. Again, leaving sex evidence for the ride home. In case the game warden stops and says, "Hey man, what you got there?" Alright, once you get it past that, the rest is all uphill. Alright. There we go. Try not to cut into the body cavity just yet. I'm going to peel back this hide. No blood. That's when the rubber meets the road. How bad do you want your deer? How long are you willing to stay out here? Keep looking. I tell you what, my personal policy is if I bloody up a deer, the hunt is over. Either I find my deer or I go home. Because I don't like the way that feels. Alright, that looks good. We're getting this open here. I got the camera turned that way so you don't have to see the grizzly part of this. But this is something I wanted to do because, again, you know, I skinned my first deer. I gutted my first deer when I was just a teenager. Barely a man, if even so. But it's a memory that I can't escape. The feeling that I got when I did it. And I lived a life as a young man with some level of insecurity. Looking back, I see it, and I was scared to go in the woods by myself. I got a pickup truck that my brother gave me, and that's love beyond compare when your brother gives you a pickup truck. But I decided I would start hunting in the Ocala National Forest, and I remember the first 2 hunts my mother packed my lunch. I'd go for the day, and I never got out of the truck. All I did was drive around. I never really hunted until I finally got enough courage up to get out of the truck and start walking around. And when I killed that deer, and when I gut it, it kind of turned the page for me. So, you know what? I can do this. I can make this happen. And this might be wrong, the way I'm doing this. But it's the way I know how to do. I don't know how to do it any other way. Alright, I'm going to reach in here, start pulling there's that old familiar smell. And it's not a bad smell. It's just one of a kind. And you've got connective tissue in there. You got to cut some of that connective tissue. I got to cut this hand here. I got to cut this right here. Open this right here. There we go. part of the anus that I cut is going to pay off right now. I got the right here. Pull that out. And then start cutting away at this connective tissue. It's holding everything in place. You got to be real careful because you got tenderloins in there and you don't want to get into those. They're just underneath the backbone in a vulnerable spot when you're doing something like this. There's my liver. Stick the knife in there and just kind of peel away at it. Gotta be careful. Don't want to cut yourself out here alone. Yep. There's part of it. I'll take that home with me. Just take it and just place it right there like that. It'll be fine. Lungs. Oh boy. Just kind of pull and then find that connective tissue and just kind of cut it out like that, little by little. Everything comes out. There you go. I got my other part of my liver's in here. I need to get it out. You know, that's a lung. Heart. I'm gonna leave the heart intact. Let it stay in there. Open this up. All right, we're good, man. We got a lot of blood. I'm gonna take this part of the lung here out and leave it for somebody to have. So there you go. There's my deer. That's the first part of processing the deer. Getting him opened up, getting him cooled off. Dump him out right here. What do you think of that? Woohoo! All right. I hope nobody else is around here. Got her done. All right. So that's it. That's my buck. I'm gonna drag him back to the truck. I got my backpack, my rifle, all my gear. Got to get it back to the truck. So it's a lot of work. All right, I'm gonna take this deer home. I'm gonna skin it, and then I'm gonna cut all the meat off the bone, and I'm gonna leave some of the bone on the meat. Neck, I'm gonna eat neck, heart, back straps, hams, shanks, shoulders. I'm gonna eat it all. It'll take a whole year to eat this deer. And think about this moment. All right, guys. Love you. See ya. Got a lot of work to do. Bye now.